Man United are looking solid and strong, but not having Casemiro for these next few games, how big is that?
Yeah, that's huge. He's their most important player, which is crazy to say if you think about the furore when they signed him for all of that money. He's clearly a class above everything that they've got. And you see the drop-off, despite him showing out during the international break. Scott McTominay is not an adequate replacement for Casemiro. Obviously, Christian Eriksen's out for the rest of the season as well. And so that's going to be a huge loss for United. But Erik ten Hag, he makes me laugh. He's the type of manager that thinks tiredness is a mindset. And so he will play his strongest team possible in all competitions. The Man United are still fighting on all fronts this season. And so he will play his strongest team available against Newcastle despite them having difficult fixtures on the horizon. And they should, depends if Marcus Rashford plays or not. Obviously, he pulled out of the England squad through injury. If he plays, I think Man United should win quite comfortably against Newcastle. I know Newcastle are confident going into this one. They've been on a decent run post or pre-international break. But I think Manchester United are a good side. I think they're a very good side that are coached very, very well as well. And if Rashford does play, I expect Man United to win this one.
Could you not have said the same about Newcastle? Newcastle are a very good side this season, maybe overperforming expectations, similar to Manchester United. You know, they've now got someone who is anchoring that midfield a little bit better in people call him a single pivot, which I'm not quite sure how a pivot works if it's a single, but I get your point. Like Bruno Guimaraes, and there is an element of Newcastle, if they can get over the line, if they can just play these final 10 games and get to Nirvana of the Champions League, all of you will be gone from the squad next season.
Yeah. You're playing for your futures, boys.
Yeah,
but all right, are we safe if we can get there?
I didn't tell you which future. All right. No, but you know what I mean. There
Do you want to go places?
Yeah.
Hang on. Again, where am I leaving?
Oh, the places you'll go. Yeah.
But am I returning to base here at the training ground?
But you get what I mean. There is this sense that Newcastle had the momentum, and I feel like that's slowing down now. There is a sense of inertia in what's going on. I understand that where Eddie Howe has taken this side. I get why that's so impressive. I think the key here might be that 12th man of Newcastle, the Newcastle fans. There is the hatred between Newcastle and Manchester United fans purely based on what happened in the 90s and then sort of into the early 2000s. And that there is a residual energy there because a lot of those fans still go to the game week in, week out. Their kids or the people who grew up in that era, sort of the era that I come from, still remember that from their teen and their early teens. So it's not like all of, Newcastle aren't just like a reawakened giant here that don't have a relationship to Manchester United.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think overall we fully expect Man United to get into that top four quite comfortably. And I think you...
Do we?
I think you do because of a couple of things. I think, first of all, overall the big club mentality is something that the baseline of that means that even if you have a few wobbles here and there, I think the baseline is strong because the expectations are so high and that they won't drop beneath that. The second thing is you've got a really good manager there. Casemiro, of course, will come back in time. I think a big problem is the congestion of fixtures. There's a lot of fixtures there. I think this game in itself is a really tricky one for Man United. And I actually think they've got quite a tough run aside from the congestion of it, having to play a lot of good teams.
So just tell me again how they're nailed on for top four.
I think they've got enough quality there, and I think I keep coming back to Erik ten Hag and the spine of the team. I think the spine of the team has kind of that experience to manage those expectations. I think that's the big thing here.
I get your point.
And like off the back of what you said in terms of the big team mentality, in the whole history, the Fugazi concept of Big Four or Big Six, in the history of that, only two teams have ever broke into it. In terms of Everton, I think it was 04-05 season, finishing the top four, and Leicester when they won the league. Apart from that, it doesn't happen that a team that probably was expected to finish mid-table pre-season breaks into that top four. Right. It just doesn't happen.
It also rarely ever happens, by the way, that a team who finished outside the top four therefore win the league after that. The only other team to do it is Leicester. So if there is a sort of a wind of change, if you like, it is that money is shifting within the league, power is shifting. The Newcastle fans really seem to back Isaac. Or Isaac.
I think there's Isak. I've heard as well.
Isak.
There's a lot of. I think there's a lot of quality in that squad. What I think, I come back to you with this game specifically. I think it's a part of the framing of this. So this for Man United, for me, is not that big a game, but because I think it will be the other games where they accumulate more points. I think you're right. I think the kind of romance of this game, the revenge element to a point, and it being at Newcastle, and I think their fans know that they need a little push.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need a little push at times to go, don't cower here. Stay brave. Keep going for it. This is a positive thing that's happening right now. And it starts with a game like this.
Are we going with narrative, though? Sorry to cut you off, but we're probably... I know we're trying to cook up a narrative like you would in any... I think there's a puncher's chance is what you're saying.
No, I don't think it's even a puncher's chance. I think this team has been playing brilliantly off the fuel of that excitement. I think it comes from that more than anything else. They're not being weighed down by expectation. They're exceeding it. They did initially. They were running hot. They've got a team that's very well drilled, defensively very strong. Where they started to tense up was the games where the expectation was there. It was the games against Bournemouth, the several draws that they had.
Right.
That's the problem for Newcastle, I think. But I think if they win this game, that is a starting point that can reframe it and going, oh, don't worry about failing. Yeah. Let's just have a real go at this because there is quality in that team. They create from set pieces. Kieran Trippier has been one of the players of the season.
I think be going up against the stronger side for United as well. They're left-sided FC, aren't they? Basically.
Yes.
I know Anthony's excellent, but they don't.
But he always comes back onto his left-hand side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they also don't emphasise that right in the same way, and they still haven't done that for quite a while.
Is that the key? The keyest battle? Is it Trippier against Rashford in this one?
I wonder whether it's actually the opposite side of that. Because so I was looking at that and thinking they'll try and lock down Rashford, and maybe they will succeed in that. But when that happens for Manchester United, then very often they go, oh, okay, now we will try the right. And I do think the goal will be to deflate that Newcastle atmosphere very early on. Eric Ten Hag seems to be the kind of manager that enjoys doing that kind of thing. And I think he gets like a sadistic sort of pleasure of watching the people that he's beating sort of getting tormented a bit. So I'd imagine that, and I'd imagine there is an element of like, sit down, do you know? We're Manchester United,
Well, that's it. And it seems like this Newcastle team run on emotion like you guys are speaking about, especially at home, whereas Manchester United under Eric Ten Hag are very pragmatic. They go about their business in a workmanlike manner.
Sorry to talk over you. Are we forgetting the 7-0 that's just occurred here? Because I think you're right. I think overall you're right. That was a team that got dismantled.
Yeah, but what was it? 1-0 at half time. That was an anomaly. That was a freak occurrence. And
the team who beat them lost to Bournemouth after that. So.
I don't think you can take too much from that result. And the result we should be looking at is the Newcastle versus Forest game before the international break, and that was indicative of Newcastle this season. They're running the motion. It was a tight game, and Forest at City Ground, there's no easy team to play against. And Newcastle got that win, and Isak looked really, really good. So I think they're going to take confidence from that. And it's probably the worst time for the international break to come because they beat Wolves the week before 2-1 as well, so going on a bit of a roll. But I think Manchester United, like you said, with Eric Ten Hag drilling this team, I think they win at Newcastle. And I think it's not comfortable, but I think it's pretty seamless for Man United.
It's also all the clips that people have got from that Manchester United game is when Manchester United are like 3 or 4-0 down by that point. Your head as a player is gone by that point. Yes. And so Martinez falling over in front of Salah, as hilarious as that is, and as much as I'm sure Liverpool fans will bring it up every opportunity they get, you have to also take that into the context of where the whole team were at that point and how confident that side looked.
What I'm saying is, I think that crowd makes a huge difference in this one.
I get that.
And I think that's a team that when it's not gone their way, there is an example there of, generally they go out with a very good plan and it doesn't get to that point. But I think they can be emotionally wobbled.
Has that not happened now, though? And it's sort of, you've been through that experience.
Yes. It might stiffen them up a bit.
Yeah, take from that. Even the best sides in the league have had thrashings in the past few years. City have sort of had that as well. Liverpool obviously have had that. So, don't overlook the importance of also that being the opposite effect of the 7-0.
Yes, the pushback from it. Yeah, fair point. So, coming to predictions, I think, a couple of key areas. Rashford against Trippier will be a really important one. I think Isak against Martinez is going to be really important. Yeah, for sure.
6 goals in 10 games, or a record close to that, is really good for the for the minutes he's played. Yeah,
averaging a goal every 104 minutes, 6 goals in 7 Premier League starts,
which is great and then the other 3 are substitutions, right? So that's a record that's getting up there with the better strikers, if not better than the likes of Rashford in the league, I think.
The thing with it, it's just data size, isn't it? It needs to be playing more games. But Martin, again, we'll keep coming back to the crowd. Maybe it's just I'm too much at the forefront of my mind. Imagine Martinez, he'll get that Newcastle crowd going with a bit of that sort of pitbull spirit that he has. And then Bruno against Bruno.
Love that.
Yeah. It's the Bruno derby. Guimaraes against Fernandes.
Who comes out on top of that one?
Guimaraes. I think he's just a better overall player. He'll probably have a better game than Bruno Fernandes, but you can never rule out Bruno Fernandes hitting like a Hollywood ball through to Rashford. Rashford runs onto it, scores a goal. Like that's what Bruno Fernandes gives you. It doesn't give you an amazing 90 minutes, but it gives you moments. Whereas Guimaraes is just the focal point and the fulcrum of that Newcastle side.
I didn't think about Bruno versus Bruno because Bruno really did lose his head in that Liverpool game, and that was such a key reason as to why Liverpool got the advantage in that game.
That can't happen again, though. No. Back to your point.
He's a very emotional player, though.
Yeah.
And Newcastle's just an emotional place.
It's going to be an emotional game.
It's going to be an emotional game. I think Newcastle will do something here. I think they will win it, and I think it could be a ding-dong. I think it could be 3-2.
I was going to go 2-2, so I don't think you're a million miles off. I think it'll be much closer than we think.
I think Man United will win the game 2-1. Do you know when Liverpool went to St James's Park and I think Newcastle were the better side despite the fact that they got a red card. They had a host of chances and maybe should have got something out of their game in a different world. But Liverpool won that side because they're a better team than Newcastle. I think Man United are a better team than Newcastle. Newcastle will have their moments in this game, but I think Man United win 2-1.
2-1. Wow.
Okay. There's going to be goals, guys. What's your prediction? Let us know in the comments down below.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.